Well, good morning, North Lake. Happy Monday to you. And what a great weekend we had this weekend in our community as we celebrated Easter together. I was so encouraged to see so many people who viewed our Friday night Good Friday service online, and then also our Sunday morning service, as well as those of you who made it to the sunrise service, the drive-in sunrise service at the high school. That was pretty cool. And tornadoes all around us and storms coming down, but we troopered through and we did it. And I was struck yesterday of just as I was able to wave goodbye to some of you who were leaving in your cars, and I was emotionally moved. I don't know what it was, but just to see faces of our church family again was so good to my heart. So we miss you, North Lake. I miss you greatly. I cannot wait until we get to meet again, and hopefully it will be soon. But until then, we'll keep doing what we do here. And again, let me just say before I get into our thought for this morning that if we can serve you in any way, if we can pray for you in any way, please do let us know. Use our website, email us, call the office. We want to serve you well during this time, and we want to serve our community well. For the next, I don't know how long, but maybe the next 3-4 weeks, I thought that we might go through the book of Galatians together. Now, I love Galatians. The book of Galatians many times is considered the Magna Carta of Christian liberty. And this letter has had so much impact on so many people. For instance, Martin Luther was the father of the Reformation. This was a huge impact to him. Luther had tried everything he could to be a good Christian. In fact, he once wrote this: "I was a good monk. I kept my order so strictly that I could claim that if ever a monk were able to reach heaven by monkish discipline, I should have found my way there." And so, but then he didn't understand the gospel of grace yet. Luther didn't. But then once he did, he held on to this. He held on to this. In fact, in his lectures, this is what he says. He says, "I do not seek active righteousness I ought to have and perform it, but I declare that even if I did have it and perform it, I cannot trust in it or stand up before the judgment of God on the basis of it. Thus I embrace only the righteousness of Christ." So what he's saying there is self-righteousness, my righteous acts, my righteous deeds, even if I could be perfect in them, which we can't, but even in my best trying, I still need the grace of God. I still need the grace of the gospel. And so, in fact, the lectures of Luther on the in the letter of Galatians has had great impact on many people. The preacher, great Puritan preacher John Bunyan, in his spiritual biography, Grace Abounding to the Chief of All Sinners, Bunyan describes finding and treasuring Martin Luther's book of his lectures of Galatians, and he considered it his greatest possession. When the reality is the book of Galatians is a great possession. And so this morning, I want to encourage you, maybe throughout this week, just read through the book of Galatians, just in its entirety at some point this week. And then tomorrow we'll actually break into the book of Galatians, maybe in the first 4 or 5 verses, and we're going to walk through that. But this morning, let me just leave you with this. Martin Luther once said that it was the propensity of man to always lean towards religion. And so what he's saying, that rather than the gospel, meaning that basically that we would, our hearts, the way that we're built, we would always move towards self-righteous deeds rather than the gospel. And the book of Galatians is a perfect example of that, of what Paul is going to be confronting to these believers who we assume have received the gospel of Jesus Christ, but in that receiving, they didn't fully understand the free grace of Jesus Christ. They didn't understand their liberty. They didn't understand that good works and self-righteousness is not, we don't mortgage the gospel. The gospel does not have a surcharge to it. It is a free gift of God. And that's what we're going to find in this wonderful letter that Paul wrote to the Galatian church. It's going to reaffirm for us the gospel of Jesus Christ. Because I know for me, if it's up to my own self, I will lean towards my self-righteousness in my religiosity rather than the gospel. And so as I started reading this book today, I began to realize that Jesus captured my heart again and showed me the goodness of the gospel that we celebrated on Easter, the goodness of the gospel. And so I hope you'll look forward to this study here the next several weeks. We're just going to take our time and go through it. And even if we start meeting again, we're still going to go through it. And so Monday through Thursday, we'll send out a little something to our church family. Northlake, we love you. We miss you. And we'll see you in the morning.